Your absence taught them how valuable you are. Part 1. They didn't understand your value until the silence arrived. There is a painful truth that many people never expect to experience. Sometimes your greatest value is only revealed after you are gone. When you were present, your kindness became routine. Your patience became expected. Your loyalty became ordinary. They woke up believing you would always answer the phone, always forgive another mistake, always stay through another excuse. Your love became part of the background of their life, so familiar that they stopped seeing it. This is one of the greatest psychological traps in human relationships. People rarely appreciate what constantly surrounds them. The sun rises every morning, yet few stop to admire it. Clean water flows from the tap, yet most never think twice about it until it's unavailable. The same happens with people. Your consistency became invisible. Your sacrifices became normal. Your presence became something they assumed would never disappear. And assumptions destroy appreciation. The avoidant partner, the emotionally unavailable friend, or the emotionally immature person often believes they have endless time. They think they can postpone difficult conversations. They believe they can delay commitment. They imagine they can return whenever they choose, because they secretly assume you'll still be waiting. But life doesn't work that way. One day, the messages stop. The good morning texts disappear. The emotional support they quietly depended on is no longer there. The comfort they once ignored suddenly becomes impossible to replace. At first, they don't panic. Instead, they convince themselves this is temporary. You're just upset. You'll calm down. You always come back. Their confidence isn't based on love. It's based on habit. They mistake your patience for permanence. Days pass, then weeks. Silence grows heavier. Something unexpected begins to happen. The emotional space you once filled remains empty. No one checks on them the way you did. No one remembers the small details. No one celebrates their victories with genuine excitement. No one comforts them after difficult days without expecting something in return. For the first time, they experience the weight of your absence. And absence has a strange power. It removes distraction. It forces reflection. Without constant interaction, the mind begins replaying memories. The laughter, the conversations, the emotional safety, the quiet moments they once overlooked. This is when regret slowly enters. Not dramatically, not overnight, but quietly. Psychologists call this loss realization. The brain often recognizes value more intensely after something is removed than while it is still available. Your absence becomes the teacher that your presence never could. They begin comparing everyone else to you. Conversations feel shallow. Connections feel temporary. People who once seemed exciting now feel emotionally exhausting. Suddenly, they understand what stability actually looked like. It looked like you. Ironically, nothing about you changed. You didn't become more valuable overnight. You simply stopped making your value constantly accessible. Scarcity creates awareness. Distance creates perspective. Silence reveals significance. Many people never intentionally disrespect those who love them. They simply become comfortable. Comfort slowly turns into complacency. Complacency turns into neglect. Neglect eventually creates loss. Then comes the painful realization. I thought they'd always be here. That sentence has broken more hearts than almost any argument. The deepest lesson isn't that they lost you. It's that they finally understood who you truly were. Unfortunately, understanding often arrives after opportunity has already left. Your absence wasn't revenge. It wasn't punishment. It became reality. And reality has a way of teaching lessons no conversation ever could. Because when someone truly loses your presence, they finally discover the priceless gift they had all along. Part 2. Silence forced them to face the truth they had avoided. The loudest lesson you ever taught them wasn't spoken through words. It was spoken through silence. When you finally stopped explaining yourself, stopped chasing, stopped proving your worth, something unexpected happened. The distractions disappeared, and they were left alone with their own thoughts. For a long time, they had convinced themselves that the problems in the relationship were yours. They blamed your emotions, your expectations, your need for honesty, or your desire for consistency. As long as you stayed, they could keep projecting responsibility onto you. But when you left, there was no one left to blame. Silence became a mirror. Every ignored message, every broken promise, every canceled plan, every moment you reached for connection while they pulled away, those memories began returning one by one. The human mind has an interesting habit. When someone is always available, we focus on their flaws. But once they are gone, we begin remembering their strengths with startling clarity. They remembered your patience, your loyalty, the way you celebrated their victories, the way you stood beside them during difficult seasons, the emotional safety they once took for granted. They realized that finding someone who genuinely cared wasn't nearly as easy as they had imagined. The excitement of new faces faded. The novelty wore off. And what remained was the realization that emotional security is rare. Silence forced them to confront the uncomfortable truth. They had mistaken consistency for weakness. They thought your forgiveness meant you lacked standards. They thought your understanding meant you had no limits. They confused your compassion with endless tolerance. But your departure shattered those assumptions. For the first time, they understood that staying had always been your choice, not your obligation. And choices can change. That realization is deeply unsettling. Because once someone recognizes that your love was a gift rather than a guarantee, they begin to understand what they truly lost. Your silence wasn't empty. It carried a message louder than any argument. I know my worth now. That message echoed every single day you refused to return simply because they felt lonely. Part 3. Your growth made them see what they could no longer reach. The greatest surprise wasn't that you left. It was what happened after you left. You didn't spend your energy trying to convince someone of your value anymore. Instead, you invested that energy back into yourself. You healed. You grew stronger. You built peace without needing their approval. You discovered that happiness didn't depend on being chosen by someone who couldn't fully appreciate you. That transformation became impossible to ignore. People notice confidence. They notice emotional stability. They notice when someone no longer seeks validation from those who once withheld it. The version of you they remembered was always trying to make the relationship work. The version they saw later no longer begged for understanding. You smiled without them. You succeeded without them. You found joy without needing permission. And suddenly, they realized they weren't watching the same person anymore. Growth creates distance that time alone never can. Because while they expected you to remain emotionally available, you became emotionally free. That's the part they didn't predict. They imagined your absence would be temporary. Instead, your absence became permanent because your mindset changed. Now they weren't just missing your presence, they were witnessing the life they could have shared, but no longer could. Regret often grows strongest when people see what they lost becoming even more beautiful without them. Not because you changed to impress them, but because you changed to honor yourself. Your confidence became proof that leaving wasn't the end of your story. It was the beginning of your best chapter. And watching someone thrive after you've underestimated them is one of life's most humbling experiences. Part 4. Your absence became the lesson they will never forget. Life has a remarkable way of teaching lessons through consequences instead of conversations. You tried explaining your needs. You tried communicating your feelings. You tried offering second chances. None of it created lasting change. But your absence did. Because some lessons cannot be learned while comfort still exists. Only loss creates the clarity that comfort hides. Long after the relationship ends, your memory remains. Not because you were perfect, but because you were genuine. Authenticity leaves a lasting imprint. Years later, they may meet new people. They may build new relationships. Yet every time they encounter inconsistency, emotional distance, or conditional affection, they remember the person who loved them sincerely. They remember you. Not as someone who begged to stay, but as someone whose absence changed the way they understand love forever. This is why your greatest power was never making them miss you. It was refusing to abandon yourself to keep them. When you chose self-respect over endless sacrifice, you sent a message that required no explanation. Your value does not depend on someone else's recognition. Real worth exists whether people appreciate it or not. Some recognize it immediately. Others only recognize it after it's gone. Either way, your value never changed. Their awareness did. So if you're waiting for someone to understand what you meant to them, remember this: the strongest message is rarely spoken. Sometimes your quiet absence says everything your words never could. And when someone finally learns your value through losing you, the lesson becomes unforgettable. Because nothing teaches appreciation more deeply than realizing too late that the person you took for granted was the one who made your life richer all along.